إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فهو المهتد ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في القرآن المجيد بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار ثم أما بعد. Today inshallah I hope to discuss an issue that is very fundamental to us all. It's very important. It is the issue of having true friends, good companions, having real friendships. First and foremost, it is the sunnah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, وَاتَّخَذَ اللَّهُ إِبْرَاهِيمَ خَلِيلًا, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala took Ibrahim alayhi salam as a close and intimate friend. Furthermore, we know that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam set the example for us by having his Sahaba, radiallahu ta'ala anhum, that the Prophet ﷺ had very close companions. And without them, we would not have been able to have acquired this beautiful deen of Islam. It was through them, it was through that transmission, through the Sahaba and generation after one from the next, that we were able to receive this Islam. So it just goes to show how important it is to have close companions around you. In fact, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ وَلَا تَعْدُ عَيْنَاكَ عَنْهُمْ. And keep yourself patient by being with those who call upon their Lord in the morning and in the evening, seeking only His face. That subhanAllah, this goes to show that even though the Sahaba were the greatest of companions, and we're so close to the Prophet ﷺ and love the Prophet ﷺ, that even then there are going to be moments where you're frustrated, that you have trouble with your friends. There are going to be moments where you have hard times with those friends. And the advice, the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not to cut and run. Is to not say, oh, we had a disagreement, therefore that's enough of this person. The advice, the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is what? That be patient with them. Why? Because they're sincere. They call upon Allah night and day. That they're constantly, whatever they do it for Allah's sake. They do it with sincerity for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that is enough for you to be someone who puts the effort to hold on to such a bond. And really, I remember just a little while ago, I was having a disagreement with a certain friend of mine, someone that I've known for many years. And we disagreed about something, and we were going back and forth. And personally, I was just trying to get to the bottom of the issue so that I could understand him and he could understand me. And throughout the conversation, this individual kept on saying, it's not worth my time. I don't see the point. It's not worth my time. And after hearing that a few times, I kind of got a little bit frustrated and I said, look, if you're not willing to get to the bottom of a disagreement, then let's be real. If you keep saying that it's not worth your time, then that means that people aren't worth your time. Let's be honest, at the end of the day, if you're not willing to put in the time to get to the bottom of a disagreement because it's not worth your time, then that means what? That people aren't worth your time. Because it's not as if you're going to have any relationship in your life in which everything will be always agreement and smiles and sunshine and happiness. That's not reality. That's nowhere in this universe. You will always find that it doesn't matter who you have a bond with, friends or family members, at the end of the day there will always be instances where you disagree with one another, where you argue, where you don't see eye to eye. And you are going to have to work it out. Talk about it, get to the bottom of it, understand one another. And it's not an easy process. In fact, it's a messy process, but it's well worth it. Because if your attitude is, no, I'm just going to cut and run, I'm going to cut this person off, I'm done with such a person, well, guess what? You will never have a relationship. You will never have a bond with anybody because disagreement is an inevitability. It will happen, you can't avoid it. So let's, instead of being the type of people that cut and run, let's say, how do I mend this relationship? Yes, it is worth it. Yes, it is going through the frustration of nitpicking and figuring out what exactly did I mean, what exactly did you mean. Sometimes it seems tedious. Sometimes it seems frustrating, but that's okay. Be patient with the process. Why? Because that's what holding on to people looks like. And that's the only way you will ever maintain a relationship. The Prophet ﷺ says, خَيْرُ الْأَصْحَابِ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ خَيْرُهُمْ لِصَاحِبِهِ, that the best companion in the sight of Allah is the one who is best to his friend. Do you want to be the best in Allah's eyes? Do you want to be the best in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? There's a very simple way to do so, according to this authentic hadith from At-Tirmidhi, which is saying what? That just be the best friend you can be. Have a best friend. Be there for somebody. Make sure that you don't go around telling people, oh, I'm a best friend to so-and-so. Let them be the ones that say it. It's very awkward when somebody always has to talk about their own praises. You know, I can do this and I can do that. I'll give you a very simple piece of advice. If instead of bragging about yourself, try to always make sure that other people brag on your behalf. Because if you have to go around telling people how great you are, then that probably means that you're not so great. But if you can stay quiet and other people can testify to your greatness, then inshallah maybe you have something. So specifically with regards to friendship, instead of going around telling people what great of a friend you are, you should be seeking to make sure that your friends are those who always say, yes, this person is a great friend. Such and such a person is the best friend that I have. Such a person, I feel so close to them. They can do testimony on your behalf. That is the way you can be the best in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We all know the very famous hadith from Bukhari, where the Prophet ﷺ mentions, مَثَلُ الْجَلِيسِ الصَّالِحِ وَالسَّوْءِ, that the example of the pious companion versus the evil companion is like the person who owns a perfume shop and versus the blacksmith. Very simple analogy, and yet it's so powerful and so deep. If you're friends with a person that owns a perfume shop, he might give you some perfume as a gift, and then people like to be around you. You smell good. Or even if he doesn't give you a gift, at least just being around him, shaking his hand, giving him a hug, people when you walk around, they say, man, you smell so good. Yeah, I was around this guy. And same thing on the other side, a blacksmith. If you want to go hang out with him, you have to go to his shop, you might get your clothes burned. And even if you don't go to a shop, you just give him a hug and just spend some time with him, people are going to be like, what's that smell? You smell like smoke. It smells terrible. And the idea is what? Character. When you're around someone with good character, it's going to rub off on you. You're going to be more positive, more kind, more generous, etc. And if you're around somebody with evil character, then it's going to have a negative effect on you. Why do I bring all this up? What is the objective of talking about this? There is a personal motivation. Recently, just last month, I had gone on vacation to my hometown, spent some time with my childhood friends, spent some time with people that I've known for a very long time. Alhamdulillah, we set out a few days at the end of the year to rent a chalet, spend 3-4 days with one another. Just us guys, alhamdulillah, big group of about 16 brothers, alhamdulillah. We all hang out and we catch up with one another. We talk about what we did this year. We talk about our successes, our failures, our hopes, our fears, our aspirations, our vulnerabilities. We open up to one another. And we had a great time, alhamdulillah, where we set goals for the following year and so forth, and hopefully we'll get together again next December. When I came back, and I told people, asked me, where have you been? And I described what I was up to and where I've been. I am shocked to find out how many people are blown away that such a gathering even exists. There are so many people who can't fathom it. There are so many people, really? You have a group of friends that big, where you all spend time together, and it's just to catch up with one another, and you guys talk about your hopes and fears and that. Really? You do something like that? That's amazing. And it kind of scares me to think, how many people are out there don't have deep bonds? How many people are out there with no real friendships? And it's very scary because there are some people who really they just don't have friends. That's one category of people. They really just don't have anybody. They're very, very lonely. That's very sad. Then you have a second category of people who they have friends, but those friends aren't friends with one another. So each one is an individual, single-serving friend. It's not, they don't have a group that all of them are friends with one another. It's just always individuals. Then you have another group of people that no, they do have groups of friends, but unfortunately, you'll find that they don't share intimate details with one another because there's too much competition, too much jealousy, too much rivalry. And so really, they're not much friends. They're more like frenemies. The type of people, I don't know if you ever heard this term before, frenemies. It's like you act like friends, but really, you're in such negative competition with one another. You're always trying to outdo the other person. And so if you feel that around your friends you can never be vulnerable, rather your guard is always up, can you really even call such a person a friend? In my estimation, the answer is no. That such a person is not a real friend. And finally, there's another group of people who do have a large group of friends. And they are genuine friends. They are actually happy at your success and sad at your failures. They are genuine friends. And yet, subhanAllah, instead of actually spending any time with them, our attitude is what? I would, but I can't find the time. Because I'm so busy running around in the rat race. I'm so busy just with waking up, going to work, coming back home, eating, sleeping, and that's it. I live so I can work. I work so I can live. It's this circular attitude. I spend no time with these people. It's basically you've never made time for them because they're not worth it seems, in your estimation. So all these four categories seem to be quite prevalent to the point that when you talk to somebody about actually spending time with real quality time with friends, it almost sounds like you're speaking a foreign language. It's like you're speaking some alien language. The person's, what is this? This is a truly sad state of affairs, and it has such negative consequences. For instance, I'll give a very simple example so we can all understand. If this is the case, if you find yourself unable to make these friends, first and foremost, don't blame anybody but yourself. Oh, it's their fault. No. If you don't have friends, you should look towards yourself, number one. That's the first point. But I want to give you an analogy, or a scenario. What if you have a child, you have a son, and this son, like many kids today, spending all of their time alone, in the basement, on the computer, all their time on the phone, all the time playing video games, watching movies, watching Netflix, always alone, never getting any fresh air, sunlight, never getting any exercise, never learning how to be a human being and interact with other fellow human beings, which is very prevalent nowadays, by the way. Or another scenario, you have a kid that has only bad friends, terrible influences, people that really are doing no favors to your son, and you feel scared that what type of influence are they going to have? Or a third scenario, that your son used to have good friends, but because of some small disagreement, cut him off. And now he spends all of his time alone. So you're in such a scenario where you're looking at your son, and you're thinking this is no good. I have to talk to him. So you start walking towards his room, where of course he's there just sitting alone on some sort of a device. And as you walk towards the room, you stop and you think for a second, you say, wait a second. What if my son looks at me when I give him this advice, when I tell him, son, make some real friends. What's wrong with you? You got to spend some time, you got to get out there. You got to be a human being, interact with good people. As you're going over this advice in your mind, you start to get afraid and you stop in your tracks and you ask yourself, wait, what if my son looks at me and says, Dad, who are your friends? What example have you set for me? Who do you actually bond with? It seems that you wake up and you just focus on money all day, every day. And it seems that the only friendships that you have are people that you spend very minimal time with, and all you guys ever do to talk about, you never actually open up, you're never vulnerable, you never talk about real things. You talk about what? The weather, maybe traffic, and money. Is that what a real bond looks like? And then you start to feel ashamed and you start to realize, wait a second, have I even kept up with my friends? What about my friends from school? When was the last time I gave them a call? When was the last time I took them out to dinner? When was the last time I asked them how they were really feeling, or opened up and told them about how I'm really feeling? Do I have any bonds like this? And if not, what am I doing expecting my son to be so different? What example am I setting for him? And if I'm not setting that example, then what exactly can I expect of him? So we need to be real with ourselves and see if we're actually creating true bonds that can be exemplary. Wallahu ta'ala a'lam bis-sawab, and inshallah we'll continue the second khutbah. Wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira. Bismillah walhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala rasulillah. It's fascinating that the word in Arabic for friend is sadiq. Sadiqi, my friend, right? Asdiqa is the plural. And this, I'm sure any Arab in the room knows, that this comes from the root word sidq, which means honesty, truthfulness. So even the idea of a friend is rooted in the idea of somebody who tells the truth. Truth to who? Truth with whom? I would say three different categories. First of all, they should be truthful with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Secondly, they should be truthful with you, your friend, the friend. And thirdly, they should be truthful with themselves, as in honest people that are not hypocritical. They don't say one thing and do another. They are truthful even within themselves. They are not hypocritical. For instance, when it comes to truthful with Allah, being a believer, the Prophet ﷺ says what? لا تصاحب إلا مؤمنا. Don't be a close friend of anybody except a believer. This is the advice of the Prophet ﷺ. This is the command of the Prophet ﷺ. لا تصاحب إلا مؤمنا ولا يأكل طعامك إلا التقي. And don't let anybody eat your food except somebody who is God-fearing. As in, when you invite people to your house, invite atqiya, invite the people that are the most God-fearing, the most pious. These are the people you want to associate with because they're going to have a positive effect on you. When it comes to your friendships and who to be around, always be around. Number 2, they are truthful with one another. How do we know this? Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu, O you who have believed, and if you consider yourself a believer, you should pay attention to what comes next. O you who have believed, ittaqullah, have fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and what? Wakunu ma'as sadiqeen, and be with the truthful. Be with the honest people. Spend time with the people who will tell you the truth. As in, they will tell you the positive and the negative. They won't just highlight your positive qualities like a sycophant and overpraise you, and they won't just be negative and constantly try to tear you down. They will be balanced. They will be people who tell the truth. The Prophet ﷺ says, Inna sidqa yahdi ila al-birr, wa inna al-birr yahdi ila al-jannah. That truthfulness leads to righteousness, and righteousness leads to paradise. And a man will keep on telling the truth until he becomes a siddiq, somebody who always is known as a truthful person. And falsehood leads to fujur, wickedness. And wickedness leads to hellfire. And a person will keep on lying until he is written down as a kadhab, as he is written down as a liar. We should remember that every single bond and relationship will turn into enmity, except the bond that is based in taqwa, the bond that is based in righteousness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us, Al-akhilla yawma idhin ba'duhum li ba'dhin adu illa al-muttaqin. That close friends on that day will be enemies of one another. Doesn't matter how close you have a bond. You will be enemies of one another on that day, on Judgment Day, except for those who had taqwa. Those whose friendship was based in mutually encouraging one another to be more fearful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What causes a healthy friendship? 3 simple key ingredients. 3 simple key ingredients will create a true and real bond. What are they? Positivity, consistency, and vulnerability. If you can have those 3 things, you will have a close friend, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala. Positivity. What does that mean? You can't always be a downer, always complaining, always criticizing, always negative. You have to be a generally positive person. Now there will be moments where you're negative, otherwise you're just fake, right? Nobody's always positive. Sometimes you're sick, you're hurt, you're depressed. There are going to be moments, but psychologists say, well, Adam, this is just a general idea that at least 5-to-1 ratio. As in, for every 5 times that you're positive, 1 time you're allowed to be negative. Why? Because then the person will want to actually help you out in your negativity. They'll want to pull you up because they know it's against your nature. They'll see that you're down. Such a person who's always positive, this person's feeling down, I have to help them out. So if you have at least an overwhelmingly positive attitude, then you've earned the right to be negative every once in a while. But overall, you should be positive with your friends. You should be somebody who, when they see you, you have a smiling face, as is the advice of the Prophet ﷺ, that he tells us to meet our brothers and sisters with a smiling face. Why? Because it's a sadaqah. It has an effect on them. It makes them feel good. We should be someone who always offers kind words and is positive in our attitude because it makes people feel good. It's something that is generous to do to others. Consistency, what does that mean? That is simply the hours spent with one another. You have to invest the time. You can't expect to have a close bond with somebody and yet you've neglected them for the past 5, 10, 15 years. It doesn't work. You have to give them a call and say, let's get together. Let's have lunch together. Let's actually spend time together. You have to invest that time if you have any value for the relationship. And number 3, vulnerability. What does that mean? You can't just talk about the weather and traffic and very surface shallow ideas. You have to be honest and open enough to reveal yourself, to talk about your hopes and your fears, your aspirations, your doubts, your successes, your failures. And you have to also not only talk, but listen and ask. Ask for advice, for guidance, for validation, for acknowledgement, for appreciation. You have to be able to, there has to be a give and take. And if you have such a relationship, then if you have all 3, positivity, consistency, and vulnerability, bi-idhnillahi ta'ala, you will develop a true bond with another human being, and that is a beautiful thing. It is a beautiful thing for many reasons. But one of them, which is so fascinating, which modern medicine is discovering, which you'll find that doctors, psychologists, and social service people are discovering, is that without real bonds, people actually get sick more often and die much earlier. It's quite fascinating. I can't get through all the evidence. I advise anybody to Google this stuff and research it yourself. But there's plenty of evidence to show that if somebody is, let's say, for example, you know how if a person is a smoker or a drinker or obese or they never exercise, these are all indicators that in the next, let's say, 5, 10, 15 years, they're going to have X amount of potential problems, correct? We all know this. This is obvious. But even greater than all of those things is loneliness. Even higher, even bigger, it's even more of a risk to your health and to your well-being if you're a lonely person. How incredible. And nowadays people are reporting more amounts of loneliness than ever because of obviously our devices. We're always spending time on devices and we have more relationships than ever, but those relationships are extremely shallow. You have so many more relationships, but each of them are much less in depth. So this is a true problem. And it has an effect on your iman, it has an effect on your health. And subhanAllah, even more amazing, a lot of people, they think that when somebody is addicted to something, drugs, alcohol, addicted to pornography, addicted to video games, whatever they're addicted to, they think that the solution for addiction is sobriety. That's not the case. You're smoking, just stop smoking. You're drinking, just stop drinking. No, that's not going to work. That's not the true solution. The opposite of addiction is connection. SubhanAllah, you'll find that the moment a person finds a true connection, a connection with Allah, a connection with their family, a connection with their community, something they believe in, a connection with friends, when they have true connections, you will find that all of these addictions are much easier to get over and to conquer and to defeat, which is fascinating research. Again, I encourage anybody to look into this, which is really quite amazing. When you do the research into this, you'll find that that is what is necessary. So if you know somebody who is addicted to whatever they're addicted to, just recognize the fact that their addiction is because they're hurting. They don't feel a connection with anybody else. They don't have a real bond with another human being or with their creator. And because of that lack of a bond, they're reaching out to anything else to heal that pain. So they have hooked themselves to whatever it may be, whether it be drugs, alcohol, or whatever the case is. We should remember that the Prophet says, "Ar-rajulu ala dini khalilih," that a man is on the religion of his friend. فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِطُ. So be very careful who you befriend. And subhanAllah, there is a very powerful, beautiful reminder from Abdullah ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He says something very interesting. He says, مَا مِنْ شَيْءٍ أَدَلُّ عَلَى الشَّيْءٍ وَلَا الدُّخَانَ عَلى النَّارِ مِنَ الصَّاحِبِ عَلى الصَّاحِبِ. Which is, I just thought it was a very funny quote. When I came across it, I said I should mention this. It's a pretty funny way he puts it. He says, no one thing is an indicator of another thing, not even smoke to fire, then one person is of his friend. So, I mean, you know when you see smoke, where you see smoke there must be fire. He's saying even more of an indicator is one friend to another. As in, you will know a person based on the people that he spends time with. You will know who he is even better than you know that when you see smoke that there is a fire. It's even more of a stronger indication. I think it's a pretty funny analogy for him to use such an analogy, but he did anyway. Radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. And so we should be the type of people who say, okay, who do I spend my time with? And what do they indicate about my personality? Do I spend time with people that are righteous, people that pray, people that are generous? Do I spend time with people that have great character? And if I don't, then what does that say about me? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us of those who develop true bonds. May Allah make us of those people who make time for our friends, our old relationships, that we call people, that we see how people are doing, and that we genuinely care to open up to others and let others open up to us. May Allah make us of those who can be exemplary to our younger generation, so that when they look up to us, they see what true bonds actually look like. Allahumma hdina fi man hadayt, wa afina fi man afayt, wa tawallana fi man tawallayt, wa barik lana fi ma a'tayt, wa qina sharra ma qadayt, fa innaka taqdi wa la yuqda alayk, innahu la yadhillu man walayt, wa la ya'izzu man adayt, tabarakta rabbana wa ta'alayt, rabbana atina fi dunya hasanah, wa fil akhirati hasanah, wa qina adhab an-nar, wa sallallahu ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam tasliman kathira.